This is the point in the series where things get really out of hand. Don't get me wrong, Resident Evil 3 or Biohazard 3 Last Escape is a really awesome game and maintains the series tradition of being above par in the realm of horror video games. Released originally in September of '99, Resident Evil 3 would be ported to the Dreamcast, Windows, and GameCube. Interestingly, Nemesis used the same game engine as the previous two games. Shinji Mikami produced Nemesis as well, though the writer for this game was Yasuhisa Kawamura. As with its predecessors, the aggregate reviews were positive, though not exactly overwhelming. The astounding environmental design, superb cutscenes, and gameplay feel of Nemesis leaves the player with an omnipresent sense of being on the cusp of an apocalypse. However, the ports for the game were almost universally panned for being a big steamy pile of crap. While Resident Evil 4 changed the series from survival horror to action horror, the origins of that departure were planted here and set their roots in CDX. The ability to quick turn, dodge, and create ammo on the fly, in addition to a wide array of weapons, the live event system, as well as the ability to choose the locations of major battles, lends to a more action-oriented experience than Resident Evil 1 or 2. Nemesis also flipped the script in regards to the sensation of constant pressure on the player. The titular creature can appear anywhere, at any time, and can kill you in a variety of ways. While you can choose to disrupt or fight him and get him off your back, it's always temporary. The monsters are also significantly more disturbing. Brainsuckers, higher quality zombie models, and new models of hunters abound, all of which are extremely great. In addition to the live events offering new and interesting ways to play the game, Nemesis also introduces their interpretation of difficulty. The game has easy mode and hard mode. The biggest difference between the two is not enemy ability or health, but rather easy mode gives the player unlimited saves and a frankly comical amount of weapons from the start. Hard mode is more rewarding. Playing hard mode, strategically battling Nemesis, and abusing the live event system grants a player literally game-changing equipment. But this brings us to a major problem with this game's difficulty. To be totally frank, this game is busted. The way RE3 is designed is to have you constantly be on edge. You are always swarmed on all sides by enemies either too powerful or too numerous to reliably fight off. And on top of that, Nemesis could pop in at any time. But the problem with this is twofold, and it actually breaks in both directions. Firstly, most of the fights can be avoided with careful footwork, which means you won't even be using any resources to begin with. This works to the player's favor because you don't get any bonuses for fighting anyone but Nemesis. The way the difficulty is balanced over the course of the game, it expects you to fight most, if not all, of the enemies you encounter. By not playing the game the way the designers intended you to, the difficulty curve breaks right the fuck in half when you walk into the Raccoon Police Department. The other thing is not so beneficial to the player, and this is the implementation of the action dodge system. With it, you're supposed to be able to tap the aim or fire button right when an enemy attacks and juke out of the way, generally putting yourself into an advantageous position. This feature was not implemented in a way that works for the player, though. Firstly, you have no control over which direction you dodge into. This is a huge problem with fighting the Cerberus, but you can see it even with the basic zombies. You have the potential to suddenly Heisman into the path of another enemy. And since your first dodge animation is still playing, you can't enter another dodge in time to avoid the hit. This leads into my next, and in my opinion, most crucial point. It's incredibly fiddly to use, and you can't cancel into it. This is going to require some terminology to explain, so just bear with me. Each second of a game or movie isn't actually a second's worth of animation. Rather, it's a series of pictures called frames, and each second is actually made up of about 30 or 60 of these. Each thing that you can do, be it firing a weapon, opening a box, manipulating an object, has a certain number of frames associated with its animation. Let's take, for example, Jill firing a grenade launcher. You can see when we take this animation frame by frame that Jill fires, absorbs the recoil, flips the launcher open, drops in a new grenade, snaps the launcher closed, and enters back into her firing stance. Canceling, safe, and unsafe are all fighting game terms that are pretty applicable here. Canceling an action looks something like this. Let's break it down. This is a regular animation. If I have the ability to cancel, I can do this. Notice how the animation for the first action did not finish before the second action begins. Actions can be classified into 3 discrete sections. The setup, wherein we have committed to the action and the animation has started. Once we've entered a setup, unless we can cancel out, we're locked into this course of action. The release is the action itself. You're firing a gun, you're opening a door, you're jumping backwards, you're doing a block, whatever. Finally, the cooldown is the period of time between the release and when we're able to regain control of our character. You'll notice that we're pretty vulnerable when in our animation, and we can get attacked during it. This leads us to safe and unsafe. These terms are generally a rubric to gauge how open to a counterattack you are during any given animation. Firing a pistol or performing a quick turn are both pretty safe, because they're both short animations. Using a grenade or rocket launcher are both unsafe, because your enemy has plenty of time to get in your face and ruin you. In fact, some of you might remember this. Let's see how destructive it is! Huh? Oh god! Hey Chris, what's up? Yeah, that was unsafe. If I've explained my point well enough up to here, you should likely be able to see where I'm going with this. The way encounters are designed through most of the game, you are almost always at a mobility disadvantage. Either your opponent is faster than you, more agile than you, or it can move along the vertical axis. Or some horrible combination of all three. What this boils down to is 99.99% of the time, you are forced to either commit to firing from whatever position you have, or not shoot, and hope that this attack from this angle, from this enemy, can be dodged, and that you time it right to be dodged. Because not every enemy's attack can be dodged, and the damn certainly can't be dodged from any given angle. This is not Bayonetta, or Devil May Cry, for people who don't like Bayonetta. You need, generally, frame-perfect timing to dodge this shit. So the majority of the combat encounters are designed for you to totally leave your ability to not take damage up to a spin on a weighted roulette wheel. This game would be a million times more fluid if you could cancel into dodging. As it stands, though, the only way to win a rigged game is not to play it. You are always going to be better off just ignoring the action dodge entirely in favor of understanding good zoning and attacking. Just write it off as a lucky fluke when you dodge the occasional Nemesis hook. As a reminder before we start, our major concern is the canon events of this game, which means that midway through this game, the series is going to come to a screeching halt and we're going to completely jump ship and do everything related to RE2. That is to say, all of the Wesker events, all of the Ada events, all of the Sherry shit, and the canon Leon and Claire scenarios. It's not a bad thing, I just want to give you guys a heads up. So, I hope you enjoyed the first half of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Look at all this bad shit.